sometimes they have some really off games. Like, I think Olleh is like a very streaky player. Sometimes I see him have amazing plays, and other times, I think he had that Alistar game where I didn't know like how he was like dying so many times, and I could see the frustration on Doublelift's face, like in the player cam, from playing that lane. So I think sometimes they're just really off sync, or like they have off games, and other times they're just coming in full force. They all win their lanes, and then they just smash the team in 20 minutes. So you never really know what Team Liquid you're going to get, but they did win the last split, and I think that they're very hungry to prove themselves.
Hello and welcome back for Game 3 of the day as Team Liquid versus Counter Logic Gaming. I am Julian Pastry Time Card, joined by my co-caster turned car ad star. It's Isaac Azale coming.
It's my true calling.
Maybe. Well, it's time to kick things into gear by looking at the starting rosters. Selecting blue side, it is Team Liquid. We'll see which version shows up today. In the top lane, Impact. In the jungle, Xmithie. Mid laner, Pobelter. Bot Doublelift, support Olleh, and their coach, Kane.
And opposite them on the red side today is going to be Counter Logic Gaming. In the top lane, Darshan. In the jungle, Reignover. Mid lane, huhi. Bot and support going to be Stixxay and Biofrost with Coach 6.
And despite CLG's loss yesterday, Reignover still managed to pick up First Blood and actually has a chance to surpass his record for the most consecutive First Bloods.
Yeah, it's actually pretty insane. He got 9 straight First Bloods in a row in 2016 on Immortals. Could beat that today. They've gotten First Blood in every single one of their games so far. And while First Bloods are really nice, CLG has been having some struggles, some ups and downs. They're still having a solid split, but yesterday they seemed to be pretty all in on a strategy that didn't give them a lot of different win conditions. Picking the Renekton mid lane with only really Stixxay as a consistent damage dealer for the late game stages meant Renekton had to slam Talon in lane. It didn't happen, and the game kind of fell apart.
And we'll see if CLG patch up any draft weaknesses versus Team Liquid, who have also had some questionable picks themselves against Cloud9 yesterday.
Yeah, and also more problematic is the play, right? I do think that, the Ornn pick yesterday for Impact did not look very good. Licorice absolutely blasted Impact. Poppy is a very good pick into Ornn, and that is part of it, but it's also the fact that Impact just had a bad game. You're not supposed to be losing by that much, even in a bad matchup on the LCS stage, and they have been looking more shaky. That's a guy that they always want to have as this consistent rock in the top lane. And when Impact is getting blasted in a tank versus tank matchup, things can fall apart elsewhere. But despite the losses, I still think Doublelift has been looking very good individually. And it's kind of funny to say because, Liquid has not looked super dominant throughout the regular season, throughout this year, despite winning last split. I think this may be the best year of his career individually, but it's not necessarily, turning out the same results as some of the dominant runs he's had in the past.
And for someone that has played in almost every LCS split, and as a result, almost every playoffs, why'd you stream for a split, buddy? Breaks my heart. Well, we'll see what happens. Doublelift certainly have to agree. He's been playing very well ever since his resurgence from a brief streaming career. And Liquid, I think all teams really in the league looking for a bit more consistency. Liquid, as the defending champions, probably hoping to have a much better mid-game. And for CLG, it was up and down all spring. It ended up, but now they're again kind of wading through the same problems.
And we've talked so much about the amount of parity in the league now. There really are no free wins. When you look at a team like Golden Guardians or FlyQuest or Optic, those were kind of considered the worst teams in the league in spring. And now a lot of these teams are doing so damn well. Golden Guardians is having a resurgence. FlyQuest is tied for first. Optic just beat Cloud9 today. There are no wins, there are no teams that you can take for granted. So teams really need to show such a high level of consistency. You can't get away with the mistakes, I think, in this league that you used to be able to.
We'll see if CLG can get away with this. Morgana, Kindred, Talia, Rakan, Zoe, Aatrox all banned, which
Quick
left
fix.
Nocturne first pick there for Team Liquid, and Mundo Sejuani, the counters for CLG.
It's one of these things where a lot of teams feel comfortable picking whatever is good into tanks blind against Impact because he often is not going to play the carry and punish you. Against another team, you might be nervous blind picking this Mundo in this spot because you're giving away a top lane counter pick like a Darius or something along those lines. Impact is likely going to go for the Gangplank here, which can work out well, but as we saw in the last game where somebody's rolling over Flame, it is not something that just straight up outstats the Mundo, something that just slams them. It's if you play it well, you can out-farm, you can outpace and outscale and take over later. But either way, this is not like a lane-dominant pick.
No, it's a small sample size today, but counter picks into Dr. Mundo have not worked very well today, at least. So we'll see if Liquid can change that trend. They do go for the GP that we expected, and it looks like Braum is going to be the lock-in there for Olleh, with Rakan off the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. You know, I talked about last game, obviously, with the Gangplank, but earlier we saw FLICKR bringing out Kled into Mundo. Really didn't do anything with that. And, you know, in a pick like that, you have to play it very aggressively. You have to be bullying the Mundo. Whereas Gangplank doesn't have to play that style. You can play it more passively and just farm and outscale. And that's why I think Gangplank often can fit better on the stage. And wow, we got...
Mid lane Kled, I think.
Mid lane Kled. I mean, this is an LPL special here. The blind mid lane Kled, you could theoretically, so Kled is actually very good into Gangplank, so theoretically they could swap this around and actually run Mundo mid lane or whatever. It's likely going to be Kled mid. We'll see what the bans are going to be. But CLG is one of the teams that has run some of this kind of crazy stuff mid lane. If you think back to Fiora mid lane for huhi as a counter pick to Galio and some of these different strategies, Kled really does have some very strong matchups in the mid lane. And despite, you know, even if you get a bad matchup in the mid lane, you can still look to roam and actually make plays with the charge ultimate. So that is kind of something that is very much huhi's style.
It's funny, I think a lot of mid laners in the league are practicing a lot of these picks, but very few of them are willing to play them on stage. huhi, though, never afraid to play something like Connecting, which of course we saw yesterday, now to Kled.
And I'm also going to be interested to see how he looks individually on this champion, if it is huhi or if it's Darshan. Regardless, neither of these guys have really many games on this champion, and Kled is someone I think that can actually have a lot of little things that really can allow you to improve. Timings on the ultimate to follow people over walls, you know, how to actually use your E to follow after flashes and things like this. And you know, even little tricks like not leveling up your W at level 2, saving it for a remount so you can trade more aggressively and get a guaranteed remount. There's lots of little things that Kled really can make use of to get away with plays that would otherwise be too aggressive or really kind of poor plays to make. But you have to play so much around your W, around that passive, you know, for the reckless swings and the kind of the attack speed buff that gives you.
Well, certainly a lot of changes it looks like for CLG.
It's a wild draft.
Yeah, they banned 2 marksmen and picked Vladimir. So I'm guessing the Stixxay will be piloting that champion. Alistar and Swain, the bans on the Liquid side. So I think they're about as confused as we are about where the draft is going. But here is Kai'Sa for Doublelift.
Yeah, I mean, you're expecting that to be a Vladimir bot lane unless they're going to get really crazy. You know, theoretically, you could be doing something different from that. You know, you could send the Kled bot or whatever, or do some different things like that, but definitely not expecting it. Expecting it to be probably mid lane Kled, top lane Mundo, Vladimir bot. We do know that it is going to be a Lulu mid lane, very likely here as the answer, and we'll see where they want to send it. You could send the Mundo mid against the Lulu and just have him farm if you think that you can slam GP in the Kled matchup. Lulu is pretty annoying for Kled as far as actually, you know, poking you down. Polymorph is very frustrating. Saving that Polymorph for when he gets dismounted makes it incredibly hard to actually ever remount. And also can make your W kind of time out those reckless swings, and that can be pretty problematic. So we'll see where they are going to swap it around. Probably still going to be Kled mid, but I think then you have to play aggressively around that mid lane because Kled doesn't want to just be sitting back and taking poke from Pobelter here, or it could be pretty difficult.
Yeah, it looks like Pyke was the last pick, and I'm pretty sure if the picks stay like this, CLG actually just picked in position on the draft. Yeah. I think incidentally, right? Like it wasn't on purpose, but certainly something pretty different here for CLG, for Team Liquid. They got the Nocturne as their first power pick, and they're playing a marksman still in the bot side. So seems pretty standard on their side. CLG maybe taking their cues from yesterday, thinking, you know what? The problem was the draft wasn't crazy enough. So one-upping their performance from yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very heavily scaling composition, I would say, from Team Liquid. They have to kind of play it very slowly when you have Kai'Sa, Lulu, GP. That kind of screams late game to me. And I'm going to be very interested to see if CLG can actually push the pace enough to really shut that down, because I don't expect what CLG has drafted here to really be able to deal with Doublelift in the late game with a Braum and a mid lane Lulu protecting him. That is going to be so incredibly difficult to actually take down the Kai'Sa, you know, without perfect flanks. And it's going to be Smite Kled mid.
You guys can't see this. I'm laughing silently off camera because I can see what the summon spells are.
They're actually funneling it because it ignites Sejuani, so definitely not what I expected. I expected it to be more of just a standard jungle Sejuani, mid Kled. Not that that is standard, but it is used in the LPL some, and it has been shown around the world. It can work, but this is actually a funneled Kled with an Ignite Sejuani. Predator Vladimir bot lane here for Stixxay. This is just so far away from what CLG has been doing for most of this split that I'm honestly pretty shocked to see not only the funnel mid, but I mean, this is the first non-marksman game Stixxay has had this entire split.
He, I believe, was the last player to cross over to the dark side and is now officially over there with Vladimir as Darshan peeking around the corner. Yeah, I think TL now, I mean, one of the crazy things about this draft is you, like us, you will not see the summoner spells until you start loading in. So
yeah.
If they weren't expecting this, I can't imagine they were.
Unless you've seen them do it in scrims.
Sure.
That's really the only way you're going to know, because it's not something that you would certainly be expecting. As far as the actual 2v2 and how Sejuani is going to work with Kled, Kled is another melee champion that can help stack up that Sejuani passive much more quickly. You're going to be able to proc that. The 2v2 should be very powerful. I fully expect a Sejuani Kled 2v2 played well against Nocturne and Lulu for them to be able to slam that 2v2. I think, you know, if you can land the bear trap on the rope, have that Sejuani passive, there's a ton of CC, there is a ton of all-in potential, so they can play that very aggressively. And having actually played a lot of Kled myself and even some jungle Kled, you can actually clear very well once you are on your Tiamat. Before that, it's pretty garbage, and you can't actually get courage from the jungle monsters, so you can't remount in the jungle if you do dismount. But once you're on Tiamat, the clear is very good. You can actually farm it out pretty well, and I'm going to be very excited to see how they execute on this because, again, even if you're funneling this Kled, this is not like a hyper-scaling champion. I would say Kled is at his strongest on maybe 2 or 3 items, and it's then more about finding these engages with your ultimate and finding skirmishes. And in a straight-up 5v5 team fight, I think it could be very difficult to get to Doublelift, and if you don't do that, you're probably not going to kill him.
Yeah, I would compare it somewhat to Talia, who we've seen both fully funneled into and just with Smite being a bit more self-sufficient. You're more trying to get to a strong point in the mid-game and then go from there, because like you said, those first few points for Kled are so strong. And
I mean, I think an even better comparison may be Aurelia, right? When we saw huhi actually playing a funneled Aurelia, I think this is very similar, where you can do those kind of powerful mid-game team fights. And you know, to their credit, there is no true tank on the team, so if you ult in, it's not like there is, you know, a giant Mundo to then absorb the Kled ult. Braum can do that, but if a super fed Kled gets on top of Xmithie or Pobelter or Doublelift or Impact, you can kill any of those people. So already doing a little bit of invading, taking some of the jungle away, but it is a trade because Xmithie is expecting this, and this is just a pretty wacky setup, and that's not even, you know, in a normal game, you would be talking so much more about the bottom lane because this is not something that Stixxay and Biofrost have been running.
Good hook there from Bio, but not really much he can do other than be annoying. Stixxay just continuing to farm up as I think someone expected. Braum is getting their early push in here.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot about how well Stixxay and Biofrost actually farm under turret. We'll see how many of these minions he can pick up. Because as of now, you know, he's definitely pretty close in the farm and could just about even that up with perfect farming. Mundo on the top side is going to be pretty nice. And, you know, it's one of those things, though, like I was saying in the Someday game earlier against Flame, Mundo, to beat Gangplank in the 1v1, needs to kind of play aggressively. You don't want to just sit back and get poked. And when you don't have a jungler on your team, that's another kind of impacting thing with this funnel play, is that you can't actually just be running in because you don't have a jungler behind you, and Nocturne may be there to support the Gangplank. So it feels like it's going to be a lose gracefully or just try to survive type of thing for Darshan. Because Impact should have a relatively free lane, unless the funnel can get out to the sidelines.
Yeah, certainly think as well with Xmithie happy in this situation himself, just farming up as Pobelter defends as he can. Incidentally or not, Lulu actually pretty good in this situation. So
yeah, very good.
Team Liquid kind of have a few things fall into place here for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lulu can be very good into Vladimir and Kled, you know, two of the main threats here. Simply because the polymorph is so damn powerful and actually locking these guys down. It is kind of really like you're gated by these windows of power. Vladimir needs to be able to kind of survive and get his pool off. His Sony's off in these sorts of reset style of plays, and Kled really needs to be able to kind of be effective during his dismounted stage to get remounted. If you do get polymorphed, if you do get knocked up, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to do it. And TL going to be able to grab a very early Ocean Dragon here, just out of, oh no, Main Vision now, but this is a really good one to get. I think it is by far the strongest dragon for the laning phase, and getting that at 5 minutes is going to make things look really, really good for them in the early stages.
Just Still trading on bot side, but like you mentioned, TL have pretty much all the control with the, I guess, real jungler here on Xmithie's Nocturne, able to get onto this dragon pretty easily. The trade-off, though, is that huhi's early gold has given him that early teammate. You mentioned that when you jungle Kled, teammate is really when you can start power farming, so he is at that point now.
Yeah, he really is, but what I always like to do, when I'm looking at funnel, I don't compare mid lane versus mid lane farm, and even if you're doing that, it's not looking bad for Pobelter. I actually, you essentially add up Reignover plus huhi's farm, and you compare that to Xmithie versus Pobelter, right? And they have essentially 83 farm on one side versus 64 on the other, and they are not really getting that much gold because Xmithie, while he was being invaded, was actually trading on the other side of the map, and Pobelter was keeping up very well. So, so far the gold certainly going in TL's favor. But kind of threatening that first roam up to the top side of the map means Impact is going to have to play it safe and back off. They know that huhi is 6. They know that the charge is available, and we'll see what they can really get done with it. I think they have to be very proactive, and they may look for some sort of a dive or a roam to the side lane.
Yeah, I think expecting things to speed up a little now that huhi has his teammate and can shove faster. Nice pull there from Stixxay as Olleh was looking for the Winter's Bite. And I do like that Biofrost is trying to be a bit more proactive in this lane. Pyke in lane, not so great. Out of lane, though, can really run quite effectively.
Yeah, and also when you are funneling, there's more onus kind of on these supports to actually get out and affect the map because there's not a pure jungler that can actually do that. So Stixxay, though, taking quite a bit of damage here, and you can see that they are being constantly pushed back, and the wave is pushing away from them. So it is a bit of an awkward position where, they're kind of being pulled up to fight and then being jumped on.
Yeah, Doublelift doing a good job just staying up in the lane and being aggressive. Again, you kind of get your lanes contained in funnels, so Team Liquid is kind of abusing that fact, knowing that they basically have perfect info on where huhi is at all times. Reignover kind of bucking that trend, is peeking over mid here, but looks like he's just going to hold the wave as huhi is content to power farm.
Yep, huhi's just going to keep farming away. The early Targon's here for Reignover. Maybe with Sejuani 6, they start to look, and he is, about 5 2/3 or thereabouts. Using that Sejuani ult plus the Kled ult could be pretty powerful. They may go here.
Xmithie ultimate there. Nocturne going to try and jump in onto Reignover. Is only level 5. Xmithie still chasing. Smite's down. There's the GP ult as well. huhi going to try and make something happen, but the wild growth already burnt onto Nocturne.
That actually probably should have been a kill, or at very least a flash actually forced out there onto Xmithie, but huhi misses bear trap on a rope, and there's a 3-man dive, 4-man coming in.
Nice run from Olleh. Pobelter going to try and get the pick off. He does grab first blood between the turrets.
They're going to lose turret here very likely as well. I don't think huhi can actually defend this. That's 4-man hitting it. We'll see if they have the minions, if they want to stay around, but that turret is getting very low. The next minion wave is coming in, and the funnel is going to collapse. I mean, they're trying to TP back in and defend this. I don't know if they can.
Feels a bit late from CLG, but we'll see. huhi dismounted. Darshan does complete his TP. Diving over Xmithie with a big Hemo plague. Gonna try and get them all down. Flash hook there from Biofrost, but Olleh pops the stop one. Only level 5 now, burns the flash. Does hit the cleaver, but Team Liquid get out scot-free.
Yeah, they're going to be able to get out, and CLG pulls the trigger to try to actually defend that mid lane turret. They needed to do that because you can't afford to be giving up so much this early, but still, they are losing a lot here. And the initial play, brought to you by Acer Predator, is coming in. Xmithie straight onto the Sejuani. It looked like they were going to be able to turn this around, but that bear trap on a rope missing from huhi means they have to back off. No actual damage to follow that up, and then staying around, Olleh comes in, Doublelift comes in, Pobelter flashing forward with the Ignite, hits the Glitter Lance, gets first blood, and they continue to push. That turret is getting dangerously low, and TL is getting quite far ahead in gold.
Yeah, a bunch of summoners traded there, but 1,300 gold ahead for Team Liquid, with presumably that first turret gold also theirs to collect once they can re-siege onto mid lane. So, I mean, CLG, they had to use a lot to try and defend that turret. They do successfully keep it alive, but really for how much longer?
I mean, they need to kind of pick their moment and start looking for fights, because as I said, I do feel like they're going to get pretty heavily outscaled. I think it's going to be very difficult to deal with a fed Doublelift in the late game. They do still have a lot of time to look to make those plays, but they kind of have to pick their moment. Reignover now is 6. As charge comes back up for Kled, you could look for a play with that Sejuani ultimate and the Kled ultimate in tow, and perhaps they're going to wait a little bit longer for those item completions. You can see Pobelter is actually going for a pure spell penetration style build. This does make him very squishy, but Xmithie going bot.
Yep, ulti here again. Pull already used, but the Fear Tether is on. Good ult there from Olleh as Doublelift just swoops in to finish off the kill.
Yeah, an easy kill there for Doublelift. You have to pull before the Fear even starts going, because those kind of immunities, the untarget abilities like Fizzpole, Vladimir Pool don't actually remove the tether from you. So once that tether is on, you will get feared, Pool or no. CLG looking to invade topside, but Impact backing off, and he has his ultimate. So worst case, you just ult this wave as Impact, and that's what he's going to do. This is such intelligent play from Impact. He backs way off. He ults the wave. That turret's going to survive. They will kill the bottom lane turret, and they can even continue pushing here. So TL playing this very, very smart. Darshan may actually just tank it up and knock it down, but either way, you know, he bought a lot of time, and they have the push bot lane. They have the push mid lane. CLG is kind of fighting for scraps, trying to get the Rift Herald and battle something back.
Yeah, just trading here at this point. TL still up pretty healthily in gold, over 2,000. Just under 11 minutes through. Pobelter again continuing to pressure. Biofrost does catch that wave, and CLG should use the Rift Heralds here pretty soon to try and get those turrets more even. But still Team Liquid doing the proactive thing with the scaling comp, which is probably not what we expected.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing it very, very well, and so far, you know, CLG has not really gotten too much out of this kind of Kled funnel. Pobelter's build, again, to talk a little bit more about it, is focused very heavily on burst, right? This is not more about the utility-style builds that you may be kind of expecting, and I think this is smart because he is having to be fighting more often early against this funnel that is going to be pushing him in, and with double spell pen, knowing that huhi is not going to be building any MR for a long time, there is not only a possibility for him to get dismounted early, but then you hit him with a polymorph, you have the ignite and double spell pen, and you can burst him down and actually kill him before the remount comes out, and that is the kind of thing that Kled really does struggle against.
Well, Team Liquid looks like they are grouping around the Drake here. Biofrost trying to find a hook, doesn't hit.
Yeah, I mean, even if you hit that hook, I think it's just a little bit of harass. I don't think they can actually follow up on that, and TL is moving 4 members over to mid lane. Impact is still up on the top, but CLG knows we need to make plays. TL is playing very defensively, though, and very intelligently. So the Rift Herald will be dropped, and they're going to try to force around mid lane, but a lot of TL is here.
Might just drop it and run straight to the Drake, perhaps, CLG.
I don't even think they get the turret. We'll see.
Gonna be close. Not enough.
Yeah, they won't get it.
And now back to the Drake. CLG are going to start this off, but seeming a little hesitant on a lot of these plays.
And TL could just actually push mid. You don't need to go for and challenge for this dragon because you have bottom lane pushing. Mid lane turret is already very low, so TL can actually trade mid lane outer for that dragon and now look to even pressure top. I mean, Mundo is up there by himself. He is being pushed in. 5 members from Team Liquid invading topside. They can take away the red buff. They're going to get this turret guaranteed. Even though Darshan makes the smart play and backs off, he has really no hope of actually defending this. And Impact even taking the time now to go bot lane. He'll be down there to actually collect the wave that's being pushed by Stixxay. So very smart stuff here from TL across the map.
Feels like they're reading these plays a little bit better as they do take their 3rd turret overall in the game. CLG probably expecting to take mid outer pretty soon, but still don't have it. So won't get that gold or the map benefit until they do.
And it's kind of funny, you know, thinking back to the interview we had, you know, with Darshan that was playing before this game, talking about how different TL can look. You know, when you watched the TL yesterday, you wouldn't think that they are capable of a game like this. They were, you know, pretty much a huge mess yesterday. Really did not have a good showing, but today they come in, they're playing against something that is not standard whatsoever. They're making incredibly intelligent responses. They're moving very well around the map, and they are also playing well individually in the skirmishes. And there's really not much of anything to criticize so far in TL's gameplay. They're playing, you know, nearly a flawless game here against CLG, and CLG is really on the back foot now, down almost 4,000. You can wait then until Black Cleaver or something completes on the Kled and try to look for a fight, but you can't just wait forever, and the item completions are coming in much faster for Team Liquid.
Yep, got pretty much one major item finished on all their relevant farmers.
I mean, the funnel, so to speak, guy doesn't even have his first item, right? Yes, he has Tiamat. He did go for a kind of a pit stop there, but you can see Morello is done on Pobelter, Rageblade is done on Doublelift, Triforce is already done for Impact. You know, all those guys are arguably as strong or stronger individually than who he is right now. He's not really even much ahead as far as experience, just part of a level. So, you know, really is not that point of power that you're hoping to have from one of these funnel compositions.
And I think unlike something, say, like a Kai'Sa or more of a scaling carry that you're funneling into, you don't kind of have that insurance of, well, we're expecting to fall behind a little earlier, but we can kind of catch it up in the late game.
I mean, Kled can be a force in the late game. I mean, if you do build full damage and you get onto the right target, you can kill them with one combo. Like 100 to 0, you can for sure do that. But that's assuming that they allow you to get 2 Doublelift or Impact, and that's assuming that Pobelter does not use ultimates and shields, and Olleh doesn't peel, and all these things. So that's where it becomes very, very difficult to actually make that work. I mean, you essentially have, yes, Vladimir is range, but you're essentially playing with like a 5 melee team here as CLG, and then you're going to have to be grouping up and running through Braum ultimate, running through GP ultimate, and trying to funnel back and get onto Doublelift.
Yeah, Doublelift set up to have a pretty good game once more. Rageblade, like you mentioned, already done. Moving on to that second item pretty quickly. Things have slowed down a little across the map as TL are just kind of re-establishing their footholds here in the lane.
I mean, they're checking all the boxes, right? They're making sure they have vision, because you don't want to get jumped on. You don't want to get surprised here by the Kled coming in from a weird angle, or Sejuani ultimate over a wall that catches your carry, and here is that engage.
Here comes Kled. They've already got a stun into Olleh. Reignover burnt the ulti. Now going to finally re-engage.
Oh, Stixxay!
Going to carry Stixxay on the backside. Trying to zone them out. Doublelift is getting low, but he's still not dead. Kiting back forever. Olleh also still alive as Impact popped the stopwatch and will be sacrificed to CLG.
Yeah, a lot of cooldowns used there by CLG. They do get the 1 kill onto Impact, though, and that was a really nice engage from CLG, but even with that, they just get the 1 kill. Stixxay with a beautiful flank, the Kled engage coming in at the same time, and this is about it as well as you can do this here from CLG. You see Vladimir is going to TP in behind, pretty well timed, Kled ulting in. Olleh does a good job of actually blocking up the Kled ultimate, but then Doublelift and Xmithie both caught here by Stixxay over the wall. Doublelift so close to going down, but the Kai'Sa ultimate shield, the Lulu shield, the Lulu ultimate, all buying enough time, and CLG gets 1 kill, but it's 4 low health bars, and they can't continue the chase.
Yeah, CLG used basically every cooldown. Would have wanted a lot more out of that team fight than just the Gangplank they got.
Yeah, really, especially because the teleport and everything was there from Stixxay. You're not going to be able to get that nice of a flank every fight, right? That is very difficult to actually find. They found a pocket in the vision. Stixxay had both summoners available, finds the flank over the wall. That was great from him, but they're going to need to continually find those sorts of fights, because even with that, they just got 1 kill and had 4 low health bars.
Yeah, and still the turret advantage remains in TL's favor. Mid lane outer still low, but not taken is Pobelter. Doing a great job protecting his tower for as long as he can. Impact is starting to have a field day with Triforce plus Executionist, just pushing away despite being a little down in CS.
Yeah, I mean, Darshan did a good job, to his credit, right? You know, Darshan is up a little bit of farm in that lane, and he was someone without a jungler, so while he couldn't actually push any advantages and play aggressively because he doesn't have the jungle support, he did do a good job, you know, surviving that lane, not allowing Impact to really take over by any means. But that being said, GP doesn't have to, right? GP is always scaling, Kai'Sa is always scaling, Lulu is going to be an insane support in the later stages, so CLG now with that Black Cleaver done on huhi, CDR so ridiculously important for Kled, giving you, more kind of cycling of those cooldowns. Being allowed to actually use that ultimate more proactively is really important, but also making sure that you constantly have your Q up to pull people back in and for such a big damage source.
Well, we have a dragon fight likely coming up in about 10 seconds, so I'll hold my thought in Xmithie's first item off the warrior, but here comes the Kled that we expected. Reignover over the top, finds Doublelift. That's the stun they need. They're going to try and take him out, and they do. Stixxay able to grab the first kill as Olleh. Going to get stunned up by Sejuani. CLG claim 2 and finds such a great fight.
Yeah, beautiful engage there. They pull the trigger. That's exactly what they need. The Kled ultimate gets dropped. GP is not there, and a beautiful ultimate found by Reignover, kind of right around the edge, catches Doublelift, and this time Doublelift didn't have summoners available. Pobelter wasn't right there to actually save him, so Impact still pushing topside. CLG will get 2 kills in the Dragon. It will be traded for a bit of farm, and that's about it. So a nice proactive play from CLG. They have to continually do this. You cannot sit back and kind of rest now with that 1 victory. Here it is again. Reignover over the wall. Perfect ultimate. And Olleh needed to, really for there to be any hope. Maybe Doublelift is just dead from that point, but you need to actually step up and absorb the Kled ultimate. You need to be the first kind of point of contact as the Braum. Since even though you're not that tanky, you are the only tank. So you need to kind of pop the Unbreakable, step forward, eat the Kled ult, and even if that means you're instantly dying, it's better than Doublelift going down.
Yep. Unfortunately, TL lose both as CLG find the angle and actually chop the gold lead almost in half. TL still up by a few thousand. Looking to continue to siege things down, but that is what we're looking for from CLG. Yep. And now as I'm going to watch these ultimate timers tick back off cooldown, I think I'm expecting every time I see that Kled up for them to just go for it.
Yeah, you really have to, because that's the only way you win this game. The longer it goes, the worse it gets for CLG, and generally speaking, in an even execution fight. But if it can get that perfect engage into a Baron, that is how you can actually blow open the game. That is how you can actually close this game. Remember, this is essentially 5 melee team, or Vladimir, yes, has auto attacks, he does. But the sieging is awful, right? The way that you win this game is by diving, killing the opponents, and taking the turrets.
Well, speaking of diving, here comes Darshan in a spot of bother. Wild growth for Pobelter for a bit of extra CC. Darshan, no flash, still getting chased under the turret, but too tanky.
It's way too tanky. No ignite coming through. The Morellos was there eventually from Pobelter, but had already healed up a lot from Xmithie's original damage because of that early ultimate from Darshan, and that's going to be a tough one to chase down. Either way, trade of ultimates, not that big of a deal. And, to talk a little bit about that second item from Xmithie that you pointed out, it is the GA. He wants to be able to actually have, one really powerful fight. Knowing that CLG has to kind of go for these all-in fights, go for these hardcore engages, having the GA now could really mean the difference in a game, because being alive for the Baron versus being dead is going to be a big deal, and CLG's win condition really is win a fight, get Baron, take turrets, close the game.
You can see the sticking point there in mid for them, though, is the mid outer turret that is still standing up with a few hundred HP left. Huhi gonna get the wave pushing in the right direction, but TL have been pretty stalwart in their defense of their objectives.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, rightfully so. They're trying to defend very well around this. It will finally go down. Have to remember, Rift Herald was also spent there earlier from CLG to actually chunk down a lot of that health, so finally they do get the payoff there. A lot of the itemization does seem pretty intelligent here, though, from TL. I like the Zhonya's from Pobelter. Knowing that there are so many squishy members, you kind of have to be more self-sustaining, being able to survive some of those dives, and we'll see if Doublelift does go into something like a third item Hex Drinker or something along those lines to help himself survive, or maybe even a Zhonya's of his own.
I was going to say, again, with this kind of AP build from Kaisa, can build that item just fine. So Doublelift, I think, going to have that in the forefront of his mind. We'll see what he does want to do with his third item. I do like the kind of face tech potential of Pobelter. I think you said it best. Someone other than Doublelift needs to tank the Kled ult.
Yeah.
So if it's Pobelter with his Zhonya's, that's fine as well.
Yeah, and even if he's not the one that tanks it, if they flash on him and grab him, Zhonya's is going to be very, very helpful. If you survive the initial onslaught from CLG, their composition really has nothing left in the tank past that. So surviving that initial burst is going to be so big. I'm expecting a locket to come out here from Olleh, very likely. That will help with that as well. And you can see 2 items now done for Huhi. This is about as strong as it gets for Kled. You can argue whether it's stronger on 2 or 3 items, but this is really your strongest point, and I think they want to look for a fight now.
Yeah, again, Doublelift's kind of in the forefront of the ulti, but the ult a little out of range. Stixxay going to go in. They're still going to look for the stun. They find Olleh as their first potential kill. Glacial Fissure flash away might be enough to disengage. Here comes Stixxay, though.
Chasing. Will they go to Baron here? I mean, it does kind of dissipate, but Impact's still on the bot side. They didn't get his TP. They do get flashes off Doublelift and Olleh. That is pretty big, but it is, again, multiple teleports expended, ultimates expended. And they're on the Baron. They know they need to force a fight here.
I think it's a bait because Stixxay is not joining. He's going to look for a big wraparound flank. CLG going to turn off, so maybe start the fight. Reignover no ulti, so can't really do much. Here comes Stixxay again. Predator back up. Finds Pobelter, who ults himself with a wild growth. Biofrost clutching forward, finds the skewer. Impact still not joining Team Liquid. Probably going to lose one.
Yes.
Death from below gets immune. Pobelter just buying time. Reignover actually almost dead as well. Here comes the ult from Xmithie. Going to try and pick up Sejuani, does do so, and now the fight continues. Huhi's still taking up a lot, but he actually pops the stopwatch, going to try and buy more time for the fight. Darshan flashing in, there's the ult on the Doublelift, but Doublelift still living. They need to kill the Kaisa, but Doublelift, well, he's still alive! And that's TL, they'll win this fight. Biofrost, the only member of CLG left alive.
Doublelift kites it out like an absolute monster in the end of that fight. The bear trap on a rope did land on him, pulls him back in. With about 2% HP, he is kiting out, barely surviving. Impact joins the fight. It's TL onto the Baron, and Biofrost has no hope of taking this one away. TL in full control of this game.
Yeah, we talked about CLG needing to win the fight and get the Baron instead. It's Team Liquid that do just that.
And I think it's all over but the crying now, Bay Street. I mean, CLG can look for engages, but that is really the fight that breaks their back. CLG know that Impact didn't TP in. They try to force the fight here. They know they have, very least, have to force GP to join.
and the initial start of the fight is pretty good. They're on the Pobelter. They do catch him out. A nice Sonya's delays and buys some time. And this pink ward gives vision for Xmithie. As the team is splitting up, he says, okay, well, I'll go in, pick up that 1 kill. You can look how far away the Kled is here. Huhi going in on kind of this solo mission does hit the bear trap on the rope, but it's Darshan flashing forward. The ult from Doublelift to actually reposition at maximum distance, down to about 1% HP there before the fleet footwork procs. Dodges out the cleaver, barely surviving. That was played about as well as it could be from Doublelift.
Yep, and as a result, Team Liquid have Baron and a gold lead of over 6,000. CLG running out of options in this game.
I mean, your only option is, okay, well, our engage didn't work. I guess we engage again. Like, that's what this comp does. You don't have safe wave clear. You don't have sieging. You have to fight. And if you cannot hard engage and win the fight, you can't win the game. So CLG has to look for some sort of a flank, but no TPs are available on Darshan or Stixxay. That's going to make it so damn hard. TL can just push in as this 4-man squad, and you have to run straight at them, which makes it so difficult to get to Doublelift.
All that's really needed, I think, for TL is just a bit more patience. Tier 2 in bot lane will die.
Engage.
Gonna try and cover Xmithie. Tanks the ulti there from Kled, Olleh again on the front side. Still Doublelift. Left untouched. Like doesn't even tag him. CLG now kiting back away as Xmithie will die, but his GA pops. Doublelift already slain Darshan. Now ult aggressive forward. Killer Instinct gonna try and pick up a few more. Stixxay, he's dead to Impact. Huhi on the left side will get picked off as well. He falls down. Impact grabs the double, and CLG in full retreat.
That'll be that. TL gonna close this one out in 26 minutes. A dominant performance in TL. Looking back on point.
Much needed bounce back after yesterday's loss, but Team Liquid will make it look like nothing has changed. Nexus turret's falling, Biofrost zoned away, and TL just gonna do a victory lap around CLG's Nexus. They'll split the weekend and take down Counter Logic Gaming.
That game is going to feel really good for Team Liquid after a rough loss yesterday. About as clean as it could be from them. The Kled funnel from CLG, cool strategy, never really got going. Didn't really find a time where they were enough stronger than their opponents that they could consistently find those engages. And while they were fairly proactive in actually looking for them and trying to find those fights, they had gotten too far behind in the early stages to really turn those team fights into team fight victories.
Well, Team Liquid see a pretty strange composition from CLG, but react well. Team Liquid are back to the form that found them so much success early in the split and, of course, in spring. Nice to see them kind of back on form after an oopsie yesterday.
Yeah, really the case. I mean, honestly, their decision-making, a lot of credit to Xmithie, how he actually handled and kind of avoided the invades coming in from the funnel comp. He was staying very high up in farm on the Nocturne. Pobelter with this Lulu mid, answering the Kled extremely well. Double Spell Pen Bird build early on meant that it's very difficult for the Kled to actually play aggressive because you can get burst down so much more easily by the Lulu. So I think so many intelligent build choices, so many intelligent responses, even Impact, backing off anytime there was a chance of a dive, using the GP ultimate to clear the wave. This was really TL looking about as good as they ever have.
I think so. And for CLG, I mean, we kind of have to ask the question, what happens if you just give Reignover back his smite? You could probably play the comp as you drafted it a little bit more standard, but CLG, the danger of cool things perhaps getting to them a little.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I think if it gets ahead, it's going to look so damn good. But when some of those early things are responded to very well by TL or go bad, it starts to kind of have the wheels fall off. If Kled gets ahead, though, like I'm saying, all you can do is engage. But when Kled is up an item, you engage and you just kill them every single time. And it starts to look hilarious because it was a fairly squishy composition from TL. So, Kled just never got to that point. He never actually got an item up on his opponents. He never really got going as you would hope that funnel would. So that's kind of the risk you take when you go for one of these compositions that have a more narrow win condition. It's the same thing that happened to them yesterday, drafting the Renekton into the Talon mid. You're drafting to slam that lane. Didn't happen, so it falls apart. Same thing here. You're drafting to get ahead, get this Kled to a super powerful spot. But when he doesn't, he's not going to, there's no fallback, right? Kled does not sit under his turret and farm and wave clear.
No, I mean, we kind of saw it in that game anyway. Like, we had two team fights, one where Doublelift lived somehow, and one where he absolutely did not. And you can see the difference it makes when you can get the kill. But for more on that bounce back victory, we're going to hand it off to Olleh and Team Liquid's Void Hunter in the bot lane.
Thanks, guys. Doublelift, congratulations on the win. A 1-1 weekend for Team Liquid, kind of following in the pattern of inconsistency. You had the loss yesterday, but you dominated today. So what do you think is causing it, and how were you able to overcome it today?
Well, to be honest, the last few weeks have been pretty bad for our team. You know, we started off the split losing to Golden Guardians, which gave us like a wake-up call, and then ever since then, every loss we've had has been really bad. We don't really know if it's because we're like trying stuff that we're not comfortable with, like me on Vlad and you know, Eugene on Yasuo and stuff, like those sort of team comps that are meta, or if it's like just our play. It definitely is our play in the end. Like that is. It just suffers a lot, I guess, on this patch, and we're just really trying to figure out like what our strengths are again.
And recently, this week, Olleh was receiving a lot of heat for some of the bad plays or bad calls that we later found out in Liquid's squad video were actually yours. So what's your reaction to kind of the heat that he's been getting?
I just think, I don't know, everyone on every team, or sorry, every fan base for every team just likes to pin it on like one or two players. I see it with like TSM, with C9, and I definitely see it with our fan base too. And it's kind of a shame because like it never really is just one person's fault ever. And I think Olleh's a great player, and like that game especially, there was times where like he just threw his body to block Kled and Sejuani ulti, and he probably knew he was gonna die, and he did it because like, you know, he trusted the call and he knew that like that's what he had to do. So I think Olleh's like a really diligent support to play with, and like he's just really great to work with.
And how's your relationship with him improving? Because it's always kind of been like not exactly a hot topic, but just a topic that people like to talk about.
I mean, yeah, our relationship, it's like any relationship between teammates, you know, love, hate. Sometimes we fight and sometimes we get along well and we're working well together. And I think those are the times where like we take over the game. I think this game we worked really well together and we were able to kind of find our chemistry again. So I think we're on the right track.
And going back to your shot calling, how are you working to try to evolve it over the split?
Man, this season's so confusing making calls. I think like before it was a lot about managing side waves, getting ahead in farm, and then playing off item spikes to make good engages basically. But nowadays, like it just feels so random. Good example would be that game. Like it doesn't really matter what item spikes you're on. If the enemy team has Dr. Mundo and Kled and they engage on you, you're definitely gonna lose. So I think like it's really hard for me because I'm a really kind of calculated player. I don't play a lot off of just like gut instinct. I kind of like try to think things through a lot. And then what ends up happening is just like, oh, they Kled ultied and like their whole team is just here. And now it's just a fiesta with like 4 melee champions and a Vlad. It's really hard. Let me just tell you, like blanking calls, the reason why an LCS is so random and teams just lose to everyone is just because the game is really hard to calculate right now. So I don't know. It's a lot of it is just based on trust and gut instinct these days. So we're really working on those kind of calls.
Doublelift, thank you. And for more on the game, let's hear from the State Farm analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Olleh. Team Liquid bouncing back for a 1-1 weekend. We have brought Power of Evil onto the desk. We're slowly replacing all of our analysts with pro players.
The hard carry.
You know, they know a heck of a lot more. And also, yes, the hard carry of Optic Gaming. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you as well.
Thoughts on this game, the way it played out for Team Liquid? We heard Doublelift's thoughts there. I mean, a composition that they probably couldn't have predicted they were going to go up against with the Kled funnel in the mid lane, but I know you have a little bit of insight into the pick in and of itself.
Well, so the Kled is a really volatile lane in mid lane. It's really easy to dismount him, and if you have a mage against it, it's really, really weak in mid lane. So they just changed the, like, they didn't change the draft, but they just changed the strategy of him having smite and funneling him, so you can avoid the Lulu matchup, and he just jungles with the Sejuani, which is pretty smart because they just avoid the early game power spike of the Lulu, and I think they just didn't get the early game ultimates going for them.
Any thoughts on the draft from you guys?
Well, I think that Liquid did a fairly standard-looking draft. CLG gave up Nocturne, which is kind of rare these days, and they had a really interesting strategy going into it. I kind of like their, you know, all melee, just run train with Kled ult strategy, and they kind of showed their hand in their first 3 picks, right? Like you pick Kled and Mundo at the same time. Those have to be mid-top. So they did kind of throw a curveball with the funnel, but I like what they went for, but it seemed like their execution wasn't.
Do you agree with what Doublelift said there? The idea that the game right now is much less about item spikes and waiting for certain side wave control, and it's more about gut instinct and trust and committing to a play regardless of what that play is?
Well, I think it's always really important to have the synergy between the teammates, and if someone does a call, even if it's a bad call and everyone follows it, you can make it a good call, right? So if your support calls for a good, like for an engage, and it's like, it's not that good, and just everyone trusts it, and you just get a lucky catch or lucky kill, you can make it to a really brilliant call.
All right, well, I want to dive into how Team Liquid dealt with this Kled funnel. Kobe, we saw the first kill coming in on that Sejuani in the mid lane. We're going to roll this one out. A bot lane roam from Team Liquid to make it happen in the mid lane.
That's right, and the bottom lane was a big part of this, even though I don't believe they actually got any assist credit with it. But they push in their lane, they move on up, and they're able to lend the extra pressure that they need to go through with this dive.
I think this was really a good play for me because when you're looking at Nocturne, right, he wants to make a play with his ult at 6. All of CLG's lanes are fairly hard to ultimate themselves because they're tanky and defensive and whatnot, but they were able to use their bot lane pressure to come mid to get a super huge number advantage and then make the play happen. So it was pretty creative. Usually when you think Nocturne, you think, okay, I'm just gonna pick a lane and ult it.
Yeah.
But they managed to use their pressure to get an outnumbered situation and then go for the ult. So I thought that was really well played.
All right, but with that, while we had a Nocturne on the LCS stage, I really want to dive into kind of the usefulness of this pick. We have a replay, Power of Evil. I'm going to hand this one off to you. A possibility of how Nocturne could have been used and wasn't.
Well, here we see that the Nocturne, they're like trying to fight here, look for a fight, and the Kled is ulting in. It's a huge indication that they're going to engage here, especially because the Sejuani is going to throw her ultimate like any second now. And I feel like a lot of Nocturne players, they're not utilizing the ultimate correctly. And here, if Xmithie just uses the Kled ultimate to just press ultimate and blinds everyone, they're going to have a really bad engage. And the Vladimir, who is TPing behind, you can see it on the screen, is not going to have the right engage. Like, he doesn't know how the team fight is progressing. Like, maybe Team Liquid is like managing to disengage the Sejuani ultimate and just run forward. So like Vladimir is going to have a really rough time engaging.
I completely agree with that, and especially considering the composition that they're playing the Nocturne into, where the dash part of your ultimate isn't nearly as useful. All these targets are a lot more tanky, so it's not like you have this great moment where you're going to get back to the enemy AD carry, because there is no enemy AD carry.
Right.
But making use of the other aspect of the ultimate in the blind is so much more impactful.
I do think that the vision reduction on Nocturne's ultimate was the buff that kind of pushed him back into viability and competitive, and even pushed him like, you know, way past viability to permaban status, because there's not really much you can do when you can't see anything for 6 seconds. So.
Right, I mean, imagine in that situation, as you kind of laid out, Stixxay TP's in, but without the vision of where Team Liquid is all splintering and running towards, he doesn't get nearly as good of an engage.
Like, if I was the Vladimir, it would be impossible for me to know what is going on. Like, is my team winning? Did already get someone blown up?
Should I flash this wall like he did?
Yeah, like, how do I know there's someone? Like, if I flash through the wall and there's no one, it's like, I look like a clown.
Another one of the more subtle things you don't always notice is that because you lose shared vision with your teams, you can't see into bushes during Nocturne ult. So even if you ward it, even if your teammates are standing in the bush, once someone goes into a bush and you're blinded by Nocturne, you can't see anymore. So it's just a really, really powerful ability.
A piece of his kit that wasn't perhaps used optimally in this situation, but the win still fell over to Team Liquid, and the reason that happened is a 24-minute fight near the top lane here, 4-for-1 in favor of Team Liquid.
And this one does start out with Olleh getting picked here, but you can see they split up as far as CLG on their chase. And Pobelter does such a good job on the Lulu, occupying 3 people's time, that CLG don't get to use the synergy of their composition. They're all spread out. This composition is supposed to be 5 people, group up, and the train goes forward, right? Everybody charges through. They try and get back to the squishes.
It actually looks like in this situation, huhi didn't have that vision because of the Nocturne ult, and he ended up going in 1v3. Maybe he thought his teammates were closer. Maybe he was saying, hey, can I go in? Without realizing how far his team really was, because huhi is their funnel. You know, you're investing most of your resources into this guy, and Kled loses a lot of effectiveness when he gets dismounted. He got dismounted and had to stopwatch before his team was even close. So definitely some disjointed communication, and a lot of that does come back to that Nocturne ult, like not being able to see anything.
At the same time, it could have been that they were like really frantic about like maybe they can escape, but they should have realized that they can only run into the enemy base, right? Into their base, right? So if they just took it more slow, just grouped up as 4 men, just run them down, they've probably gotten the Baron afterwards, and the game would have been different.
A little bit more composure, taking a little bit more time to set up the play. That's not what happens. Team Liquid grabs the Baron. They ultimately push for a victory, and this is a nice bounce back for them to make a 1-1 week. But let's remember, this is our spring split champions here that are now sitting at 6-4 and have looked shaky throughout this performance. So I want to go back to the conversation we had at the top of the day, the idea of trends within the NALCS, and that Team Liquid does not necessarily look like they are solidly the best best team in the NALCS. What, if anything, does this game do to either shore up some of the weaknesses and concerns that you guys have about the squad, or even expose more worries about how they might perform later into the split?
I think that getting wins after a loss streak can definitely help just overall team confidence and morale. Being on a loss streak feels terrible, and it can break down some of that trust. But even in this game, it wasn't super clean from Liquid. A lot of the advantages that CLG got were when Liquid was split up, and they were able to get engaged on by a CLG that was much more grouped. So I think to me, this game was more of CLG's trying something very new. I thought it was actually really cool that they went for this comp, but maybe they didn't have enough practice on it, and funneling a Kled is kind of questionable. So I think that CLG kind of like outplayed themselves, but it will help Liquid's confidence.
Yeah, I did like the comp, like you're talking about. Maybe if they had a better early game and they had more power behind this all-in engage, then I definitely can see it working. I didn't see in this game something much different from Team Liquid. You're talking about kind of changing the way the trends are going, though. So I don't think that like there's a big course correction here because of this win. But as you're talking about, like it's great for morale.
I want to finish with you, Power of Evil, because you guys moved to 4 and 6 today. So one, the fact that there's only 2 games separating you guys in first and how many teams occupy that space in the standings is very intriguing. But you're also one of the teams that has been more willing to try the new stuff. And so how do you assess the way that Team Liquid is attacking this split?
Well, so with our 2 wins now, it was an historic moment for every esports fan out there because that was the first 2-0 in the whole season for Olleh Gaming.
Yep.
So, like, I think we are really confident, and I think the win yesterday was really important for us because we started losing every scrim and we lost trust in each other, I would say, a little bit. And we tried to use all these new strategies to like catch our opponents off guard. And I don't know, I just really enjoy the meta right now. I feel like smite mid laners are fun, strategies are fun. And you can just try out, like, it's so much stuff viable in mid lane, especially you could see the Kled funnel. Like, there's so many options. It's just like, I would say players and teams who are open to new strategies and have the viable options of doing them and are good on these champions, it's like really big.
Well, there is one common word that I heard both the two of you and Doublelift speak in his interview: trust. So this idea that trust is one of the most important aspects of a successful pro team. We'll keep looking for trust to develop throughout the entire split for each of our teams. After the break, Clutch Gaming and TSM man their stations for Game 4. That matchup is coming up. Don't touch that browser.
Blood split. Okay, we're good. I'm going, I'm just keep going, Yeah, keep going, Kled no flash. Let's go. Yeah, nice.
Welcome to Level Up, presented by State Farm, where we take things you know about the game and share the little details that help you crush the Nexus like a pro. Whether it's how to solo Drake or crush teamfights on Vlad, send your suggestions on what we can do for future episodes. Use the hashtag NALCS and we'll get you and your teammates caught up in no time. Everyone knows that Rift Herald can demolish turrets in the blink of an eye. So today, we're sharing some tips to take down that bulldozing beast. As of patch 8.13, the epic monster we lovingly refer to as Shelly has 3 attacks. Basic attacks, which deal 4% of your current health, her charge, which does 200% physical damage, and the swipe, which dispenses a whopping 300% physical damage. Make use of Rift Herald's long windups within the pit to dodge her swipe and charge. This will allow you to take Shelly without losing all of your health in the process. Remember to play around the eye on her back to inflict 12% for maximum health, and you'll be soloing Shelly in no time.